Unlock the miraculous power of divine tiny habits. 7 days to manifest answered prayer and healing. In the heart of the quaint English town, surrounded by rolling hills and blooming wildflowers, Margaret found herself standing at a crossroads of faith and despair. Her son Liam, once so full of life, was now quiet and frail, battling an illness that had taken hold with a ferocity that shattered their world. The doctor's words echoed in her mind, an unyielding refrain, incurable. It was as though a dark cloud loomed over their home, dimming the light of hope she had always held dear. But it was in the depths of that grief that something divine stirred within her. One evening, while sorting through her grandmother's belongings, she stumbled upon an old prayer journal, its pages fading yet brimming with spirit. The words danced before her eyes, promises of miracles, whispers of healing. Each entry felt alive, as if her grandmother's faith had leapt through time to ignite Margaret's own flickering hope. In a moment of sudden clarity, she decided to embark on a journey of divine tiny habits, a sacred commitment to unite her family in small acts of devotion for 7 days, believing that their collective faith could manifest miracles. Margaret gathered Liam and her husband, David, sharing her heartfelt resolution. The air thickened with anticipation, both anxious and hopeful. David raised his brow, skeptical. He feared her fervor was more a whimsical escape than a true avenue toward healing. Yet, as Margaret set about the small daily rituals, lighting candles, whispering prayers, and even penning letters to the patron saints, a sense of unity began to blossom within their household. With each day, the simple acts fueled her spirit. They would sit around the dinner table, where every prayer felt like a gentle embrace. As they recited passages from the journal, the words shimmered with promise. A neighbor, overhearing their prayers, began to join them, aware of the ripple effect they were creating. Children laughed outside, unaware of the heavy hearts within, and with each prayer, they ignited a spark beneath the sorrow that engulfed them. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Margaret delved deeper into her sacred journey, she encountered doubt like a shadow lurking in her heart. Neighbors raised eyebrows, they whispered about her escalating fervor, the lengths to which she was going. But she wouldn't yield. Each flicker of skepticism was met with fervent prayer, a promise to seek the divine amid the trials. Moments grew heavier, her heart wrestling with despair as healing felt distant. Then came the quiet evening, the light dimmed a sanctuary in her home. Margaret found herself alone, reflecting on the ancient stories of miracles she'd heard in church, each tale flooding through her like a vibrant current. The presence of the divine washed over her, awakening a deeper understanding of faith, not solely as hope for healing but as acceptance of life's complexities. With renewed strength, she wrapped her arms around Liam, leading her family in prayer once more. A warmth enveloped them, a pulse of something holy. It was as if the air shimmered, teasing the possibility of miracles right before them. Through the darkness, the divine began to weave a light of promise that echoed through the generations, urging them forward. What awaited them in the days ahead made Margaret's heart race with hopeful anticipation. Would these divine tiny habits offer the miracle they sought? Or would the journey reveal an even deeper truth, stirring not just their faith, but the very fabric of their community? The evening hung heavy with unanswered questions, yet in the depths of her spirit, a new dawn was just beginning to break. As the sun broke over the hills the next morning, golden rays filtered into the kitchen, illuminating Margaret's smiling face. Today marked the beginning of their 3rd day of devotion, a point she felt was crucial. Each morning now echoed with the soft chatter of her family, a sound that felt like balm for their weary souls. "Let us hold hands before breakfast," Margaret suggested, her heart swelling with hope. They gathered, David still with that skeptical expression, but there was softness in his eyes, a flickering ember of possibility. As they prayed, Margaret felt Liam squeeze her hand, and she took a moment to look down at him. It was during these rituals that his laughter began to take wing, inching quietly back into their lives. "Please, God," she whispered, "let today be filled with your grace and healing." The sincerity of her prayer hung in the air like a fragrant incense, mingling with the scent of fresh bread wafting from the oven. After breakfast, a gentle knock on the door pulled them from their sacred bubble. It was Mrs. Thompson, an elderly neighbor known for her unwavering kindness. With a tray in hand, she offered homemade scones. "I felt a stirring in my heart when I saw the light coming from your home. Thought you'd appreciate a little treat," she said, her eyes twinkling. As they shared the scones, laughter erupted. The simple gesture stirred something unexpected within David. "You know, maybe there is something to this," he remarked, his voice thoughtful. Margaret felt a rush of gratitude. Perhaps their small habits were weaving a connection deeper than mere routines. Later that afternoon, Margaret found her way to her grandmother's prayer journal, seeking solace in the entries that had become her lifeline. As she flipped through the delicate pages, one particular passage leaped out at her: "Faith is the light in the darkness, it is the strength that carries burdens we cannot bear alone." Those words wrapped around her heart like a warm embrace. With the sun beginning to dip low in the sky, she decided to gather her family once again. "Tonight, let us light a lantern for every prayer we've whispered together," she proposed, her eyes shining with determination. They each chose a lantern, threading through the simple task of placing small candles inside. It became more than a ritual, it became an act of remembrance, a testament to faith against despair. As twilight descended, the flickering lights filled their living room with a glow that felt almost ethereal. They sat in a circle, Liam's laughter mingling with the soft crackle of candle flames. Margaret could sense a shift in the atmosphere. "May these lights shine as symbols of our hope, our joy, and our healing," she said, feeling the tears prick at the corners of her eyes. Just then, a sudden gust of wind rustled outside, causing the lanterns to flicker wildly. For a brief moment, Margaret thought she saw a figure silhouetted against the orange hue of the evening light, a glimpse of purity and promise. "Did you see that?" Liam squeaked, glancing towards the window. David shot her a look, an unspoken question forming between them. "Perhaps it's just the wind," he replied, but the uncertainty in his voice was audible. Margaret's heart raced with anticipation. That fleeting moment felt charged as if heaven was stretching to meet them. As they finished their prayers, a subtle understanding bloomed within Margaret. Was their journey actually beginning to stir the divine around them, or was it awakening something already within? Clarity seeped through her like morning dew, yet still, the bigger question loomed large: how much would their faith continue to deepen, intertwining their spirits with greater understanding and peace? The lanterns continued to flicker, casting gentle shadows on their faces, igniting the promise of an unfolding tale. What awaited them in the darkness yet to come? Would the light continue to guide them, or would clear skies turn stormy again? With hope flickering in her heart, Margaret realized they were at the very edge of something profound. Something beautifully mysterious. As the moon rose, casting a silver glow through the window, Margaret settled into a moment of quiet reflection. The lingering sense of scones and candle wax enveloped her as she contemplated the evening's events. The dance of the lanterns provided a comforting rhythm, matching the newfound beat of hope in her heart. "Do you think we'll see the figure again?" Liam asked, his eyes wide with wonder. Margaret smiled at her son, buoyed by his innocent curiosity. There was magic in such questions, always leading back to faith. "Maybe, or maybe it was a reminder that we're never truly alone," she replied, her voice soft yet assured. David leaned back against the wall, arms crossed, still processing the evening. His silence told her he was wrestling with thoughts of his own. With a sense of expectancy humming in the air, Margaret reached for the prayer journal again, her fingers brushing over those words that promised strength in darkness. In this moment, she felt like that very light. Who knew the power they'd begun to harness with simple habits and shared prayers? "Tonight, let us share some thoughts before we wrap up," she suggested, hoping to draw David in closer. He hesitated for only a split second. "All right, let us hear it. His tone was softer now, as if the weight of skepticism was gradually melting. We've started something beautiful, Margaret said, filled with eagerness. What if every prayer is a drop in a vast ocean of faith? Each small act we take today leads to greater change tomorrow. Liam nodded in agreement, his youthful spirit imbued with conviction. Like building a tower. He proclaimed, his small hands animated. One brick at a time, and then whoosh. Up it goes. David chuckled, that's not a bad way to put it, kiddo. A spark seemed to ignite among them. The walls that had silently separated them were slowly giving way. I believe that our lights can reach far beyond these walls. They can illuminate not just our lives, but others too, Margaret said, feeling the warmth of divine presence. Each prayer is a connection, every good deed a way to spread that light. Wouldn't it be amazing to be a beacon of hope for someone else? David's expression changed, something shifting in his eyes. Maybe these small things we do, they matter more than we realize. The conversation flowed, vibrant and filled with warmth. They shared memories and hopes, each word a building block towards a shared future. Laughter intermingled with deeper confessions, and soon even the shadows in the corners of the room felt less daunting. After a time, they made their way outside, stepping into the cool night air. The lanterns cast their glow across the yard, transforming the everyday into something sacred. Look up at the stars, Margaret whispered, each one represents a prayer, a wish. Just like our faith. It can sparkle, even when the night is dark. The moment they spent together felt holy, almost as if the heavens themselves were leaning in to listen. Around them the world was alive with possibilities. Margaret's heart swelled with gratitude. But then something unexpected happened. A gentle rustling came from the nearby trees, a soft whisper carried on the chill of the breeze. It was as if the universe itself were responding, perhaps a sigh of encouragement or an invitation to delve deeper. Mom, do you hear that? Liam asked, his voice dropping to a whisper. David turned toward the sound, eyes narrowed in concentration. It feels alive, David remarked, his demeanor shifting. What could this mean? Was there more to the flickering lights, the evening's magic, than they could understand? Margaret's heart raced again with a new sense of wonder. They had barely scratched the surface of this journey. With new realizations coming fast, she stood on the threshold of a divine revelation, a transformation waiting to unfold. As they gathered closer, a shared anticipation stitched them together, silently asking the questions that lurked just beneath the surface. What would tomorrow bring? As the wind played with the leaves, Margaret sensed that the answers were out there, waiting just beyond the horizon. Would their faith take flight, or would the mysteries housed in the night start pointing them toward a truth they hadn't considered? The rustling from the trees grew louder, a gentle chorus that summoned the deeper parts of their hearts. Margaret felt a shiver of excitement ripple through her as she exchanged glances with David. Liam, wide-eyed and curious, clutched his mother's hand tightly, drawing strength from her presence. Let us step closer, Margaret suggested, her voice barely above a whisper. As they moved towards the sound, the world around them seemed to fade. The night air was crisp, refreshing, and the fragrance of earth filled their lungs, grounding them in this moment that felt like it had been plucked from a dream. What if it's the figure? Liam piped up, his imagination flaring. What if it's coming back? David chuckled softly, but Margaret felt a pulse of truth in her son's words. What if they were being beckoned to witness something extraordinary? Maybe it is, she said, her heart racing. Maybe it's a call to find something more. As they reached the edge of the trees, the whisper shaped itself into a clearer sound, a murmur that felt both far away and intimately close. It was unmistakably spiritual, a language of fluttering leaves and hidden promises. Listen, she urged, laying a hand on David's shoulder. What do you hear? The three of them fell silent. The wind wove through the branches, and for a moment, it sounded as if it were speaking. Words of encouragement, whispers of hope, and gentle reminders of love seemed to flow through the air, wrapping around them like a warm blanket. "Do you feel that?" David asked, awe painting his features. It's like the world is breathing." "Yes," Margaret affirmed, her pulse quickening. "It's as if God is not just watching us, but joining us in this moment." Liam's eyes sparkled with understanding. "Like the stars. They're up there, but they're still part of us down here. We can reach them. This is our moment, isn't it?" David pondered, feeling a stirring inside him. The skeptic's wall that had often held him back was starting to show cracks. What if all those prayers we've sent out, those moments of light we've shared? What if this is the beginning of something? Just then, a bright flash flickered in the darkness, drawing their gaze upward. It wasn't a star, but a burst of light that pulsed gently, like a heartbeat in the night. Margaret felt her breath catch in her throat. The light seemed to sway in rhythm with the whispers surrounding them. Liam gasped. "Mom! Look! It's beautiful." "It is," Margaret breathed, her heart swelling with joy. "It feels alive. Like it's here for us." In that instant, hope unfurled within her, so tangible it seemed to wrap around them like an embrace. Margaret remembered their shared journey, each prayer, every moment of faith. This was the fruit of their unity, the glow of their collective spirit shining brightly against the dark canvas of the night. "Let us pray," she urged, her voice filled with newfound strength. "Let us acknowledge this miracle, whatever it is, and ask for guidance." They stood together, hearts aligned, hands clasped. Margaret began to speak, earthy words interwoven with divine connection. The air thickened with anticipation as they shared prayers, each one a strand weaving a tapestry of light and love, reaching for that glowing presence above. As they poured their hearts out, the wind seemed to intensify, carrying their words with a purpose, like ships setting sail across the vast sea. And just as they finished, the brilliant light pulsed again, brighter now, almost alive in response to their intentions. "Did you see that?" David exclaimed, eyes wide. "It's like it answered." An inexplicable peace washed over Margaret. She felt a deep reassurance that their steps were aligned with a greater path. But even as she basked in this cherished moment, a question thrummed through her being: what awaited them on the other side of this revelation? Each pulse of light felt like an invitation, a hint at what lay ahead. Maybe they were on the brink of unlocking a new truth, one that could change their lives forever. "Let us remember this," she said softly, as they began to retreat. From the trees, hearts linked and spirits lifted. This is only the beginning. And as they turned to head back home, Margaret wondered, what miracles would tomorrow bring? As they walked back, the darkness enveloped them, yet in their hearts, a light lingered brightly. Each step felt buoyed by purpose, their minds still dancing with the remnants of the divine moment. Margaret glanced at Liam, his small face lit with wonder. He looked up at her as if he understood more than words could convey. "Mom, do you think we'll see the light again?" he asked, his eyes reflecting the last glow of twilight. "I hope so, darling," she replied, squeezing his hand. "But even if we don't see it tonight, I can feel it still with us." David, walking silently beside them, finally broke the stillness. "What if that light, that presence is a reminder for us to keep believing? Maybe we need to carry that light within us and share it with others." A soft smile formed on Margaret's lips. The thought echoed in her mind. They had each been given a gift tonight, a heavenly spark to guide their way. Suddenly, it was more than just a one-time event, it was an awakening. With the night stretching on, they reached the threshold of their home. The lights within shone warmly, welcoming them back into the familiar. Yet, all of it felt different, somehow more vibrant. As they entered, titles of familiar stories and symbolic artifacts surrounded them, reminders of their journey thus far. Each item seemed to thrum with newly discovered meaning in the wake of their experience. "Why don't we start a new tradition?" Margaret suggested as they settled on the couch, cozy and ready to share thoughts. "Each night, let us take a moment to reflect on something we are thankful for, the light in our lives." Liam's eyes sparkled. And we can pray to see more of the light. Yes. David agreed, his tone lifted. With open hearts and eyes for those miracles. As the evening unfolded, they shared laughter and stories. The weight of yesterday's worries lessened, replaced by a burgeoning hope for tomorrow. With every spoken word of gratitude and every prayer shared, a chorus of light resonated in the air. They opened their hearts, leaning into the warmth of their connections, family, faith, and the bright possibilities awaiting them all. Yet, a curiosity threaded beneath the surface of their joy. A quiet whisper persisted in Margaret's heart. It was a gentle nudge, urging her to seek more. What deeper truths might they uncover? What paths might be revealed when they chose to align their lives with the light they had glimpsed? In the stillness that followed their prayers, Margaret stole glances at her family. She could see a subtle change in David's demeanor. The skeptic within him was slowly morphing into a seeker of the divine. The thought filled her with both excitement and trepidation. Could this be the catalyst they were destined for, an invitation to explore the profound mysteries of faith together? With her heart fluttering, she turned from their cozy sanctuary and looked out the window. The stars sprinkled the night sky, twinkling like promises made from above. And just off in the distance, in the deep embrace of darkness, she felt the echo of that light calling again. What awaited them on this new journey? Could the light they experienced be a gateway, not just for them, but for others seeking the same divine connection? She couldn't help but wonder what miracles would unfold if they dared to share their experience, if they illuminated the paths of others lost in the shadows. Tomorrow would reveal more, but for now, the mystery lingered in the air, waiting patiently for their hearts to open even wider. Would they take the next step, whatever it might be? The sun rose gently the next morning, its rays spilling through the window and washing over Margaret and her family. Birds sang a melody of hope outside, a sweet reminder that each new day held infinite possibilities. As she bustled about the kitchen preparing breakfast, the warmth of yesterday's encounter still wrapped around her, providing comfort and inspiration. Liam entered the room, his hair tousled, eyes wide with excitement. "Mom, can we start our tradition today?" he asked, wiping sleep from his eyes. The eagerness in his voice sent a rush of joy through Margaret's heart. "Absolutely, sweetheart," she replied, setting a plate of pancakes before him. "Let us each share something we're thankful for after breakfast. A light in our lives." David joined them, his expression thoughtful. "You know, I spent some time last night thinking about what we experienced," he said, stirring his coffee. "I've always been skeptical, but what if we viewed this as more than just a fleeting moment? What if this light is a nudge towards something greater?" Margaret paused, her heart filling with pride at David's open-mindedness. "That's a wonderful way to see it, David." A rush of hope ignited within her. Could he be opening himself to the very essence of faith? "Can we pray together?" Liam suggested, youthful sincerity echoing in his voice. "Yes, let us do that," David said, taking a deep breath. They joined hands across the table, a strong circle formed in the heart of their home. "Dear God," Liam's voice quavered with emotion, "thank you for our family and the light we saw together. Please help us carry that light today. Amen." "Amen," Margaret and David echoed, the word lingering in the air like a sweet perfume. As breakfast concluded and they each shared their gratitude, safety, love, and the beauty of nature, Margaret couldn't shake the sense that they were embarking on a special journey. They were discovering a new way to live, one that acknowledged and embraced the divine within their everyday moments. After breakfast, their normal routine gently resumed, yet Margaret noticed subtle changes. Every interaction felt infused with purpose. Conversations thrummed with anticipation of the miraculous. David's skepticism turned to curiosity as he asked questions that led to deeper discussions about faith, spirituality, and personal connections to the divine. While tidying up, Margaret stumbled upon an old book tucked away on a shelf. The title read, "The Power of Small Steps in Faith." She opened it, and her breath caught. Pages were filled with stories of ordinary people taking small strides towards miraculous transformations. Each page whispered, even tiny habits can lead to profound changes. David, come take a look at this. She called out, her heart racing. He approached, brows furrowed with interest. They spent hours immersed in the stories, compassion igniting their spirits with each turn of the page. What if we started with one small habit a day? David suggested. Just one thing we can do to honor the light we felt. Like what? Margaret mused, her heart dancing joyfully at the idea. Maybe lighting a candle each evening as a reminder of our journey. Yes, and we could also extend that grace to others. Share our thankfulness, show kindness, Margaret exclaimed. With hope building like the morning sun outside, they committed together. Each act of faith, no matter how small, would reignite their own light and potentially shine for others too. What ripples of hope and healing might flow from simple acts of gratitude. As they embraced the spirit of their new adventure, a question hung in the air: what transformations awaited them on this path of divine small steps. The echoes of their evening prayers lingered, promising wonders yet to be unveiled. In that moment, Margaret felt the light beckoning again, inviting them deeper still into the mystery of faith. Would they have the courage to pursue this divine invitation, knowing that every small step could lead to monumental changes? The evening settled in, painting the sky with hues of oranges and purples as the family gathered together for their first candle lighting. Margaret set a small white candle in the center of their dining table, its flame flickering softly like the light they had discovered. They sat close, a warmth growing in their hearts, an unspoken bond formed through shared anticipation. "Are we ready?" Liam asked, his eyes dancing with excitement, glancing at the flickering light. "Ready," Margaret smiled wide. David took a deep breath. "Let us sit in silence for a moment. Let us just be and remember the light," he suggested, closing his eyes. As they sat, breathing in the presence of the flame, Margaret felt a wave of peace wash over her. There was something profoundly intimate about this ritual, a beautiful intertwining of their souls in purpose. The daunting day faded, leaving only the essence of serenity surrounding them. After moments passed, David opened his eyes. "I found something amazing in those stories today," he began, a spark illuminating his face. "Every habit, no matter how small, has the potential to bring forth change in ourselves and those around us. It's like we're unlocking doors we didn't even know existed." "Exactly." Margaret leaned in, her enthusiasm infectious. "It's a chance to connect in deeper ways, to live intentionally. Like pruning a tree for it to blossom more beautifully." Liam chimed in, "And every time we light the candle, we remind ourselves to be grateful and brave." With hearts lifted, they took turns sharing how they felt the presence of light that had guided them thus far. Margaret shared her gratitude for their unity, while David spoke of newfound hope. Liam, his innocence shining bright, cherished the beauty of family moments, calling it the best part of life. As the candle flickered, Margaret noticed a gentle glow beginning to radiate beyond the flame, an ethereal presence wrapped around them, like a divine embrace. It felt real, she could almost reach out and touch it. The air hummed with anticipation, a deep resonance of joy coursing through their hearts. "What if we added another small step?" David said, his voice trembling with excitement. "What if we also wrote down a prayer every night and kept it close by? Something we hope for, or even something we wish to share with someone else." "What a lovely idea!" Margaret exclaimed, her spirit soaring at the thought. "We can keep a prayer jar. Each evening, we can reflect, then draw from it when we light our candle again." "Yes, like seeds of intention in the garden of faith," Liam shouted, his passion palpable. They spent the next hour delighting in the process of crafting their first collection of prayers, nurturing their hopes and dreams with pen and paper, delicately folded. They laughed, they shared, and most importantly, they created a new communion, one that would guide them as they walked this new path of small habits, illuminated by their love and faith. But as they finished, darkness crept into the corners of the room, and with it brought whispers of doubts. What if their little practices didn't lead anywhere significant? What if the light felt dim again? Hearts danced between hope and fear, and Margaret felt the tremors of uncertainty pressing against their newfound joy. Something deep within her stilled the noise, a whisper that felt both sacred and determined: trust the journey. It was an invitation, a call to surrender and embrace the unknown. As they placed their prayers in the jar, the soft glow of the candle flickered once more, casting shadows of divine possibility. What would unfold next in their faith journey? What miracles awaited just beyond the horizon of their small steps? As the candle burned steadily in the gathering twilight, its glow seemed to deepen, wrapping the family in a cocoon of warmth and hope. Margaret looked around the table, witnessing the quiet anticipation etched on their faces. It felt like the world outside was fading, leaving only their shared intention a sacred moment destined to guide them further along their path. "Let us light it again tomorrow," Margaret suggested, her heart bubbling with excitement at their new practice. "Every day, a new light." Liam echoed, his eyes widening as he imagined the possibilities. "It's like letting the light grow." David nodded, a smile spreading across his face. "And with each prayer, we share a piece of our hearts. It's a pure connection back to God." As they discussed their hopes for the prayer jar, they were oblivious to the shadows of fear that crept around the edges of their minds. Would the changes they sought be enough? Would they truly find strength in such small actions? But as Margaret glanced at the candle, she felt a whisper, a reminder that faith often sprouted in the unlikeliest places. That night, they gathered to light the candle once more. The act had become a ritual filled with meaning, a heartbeat syncing together, making a melody of faith. With each flicker, the worries began to dissolve. They took turns drawing prayers from the jar, each utterance a thread woven into their growing tapestry of trust. "May our hearts remain open to guidance," David prayed, his voice steady. Each word hung in the air, powerful yet tender, carving a space for the divine to fill. The prayers flowed, one after another, a stream of love pulsating within their circle. Margaret felt her spirit uplifted. The act of speaking their hopes into existence felt like releasing seeds into fertile ground. With every prayer, they cultivated not just a light, but a community of intention. After they concluded, Margaret felt an urge, a divine prompting. "Let us create a space to share our stories, our journeys. Each time we light the candle, we can reflect on the prayers we've drawn and how they unfolded in our lives," she proposed. Liam's eyes lit up. "Yes. We can call it our light journey." As she listened to her family brainstorm, Margaret's heart swelled with gratitude. The worries that had lingered just hours before now felt minuscule. There was power in vulnerability, in sharing their journey as they attempted to walk more closely with God. The following days transformed into a blossoming of their spiritual lives. Each evening, their candle ritual expanded with laughter, heartfelt moments, and even some tears as they wrestled with the unanswered and the uncharted. They talked about their triumphs and struggles, always returning to the glow as their safety and inspiration. Yet, with each passing night, Margaret sensed an undercurrent of unanswered longings and gnawing doubt whispering that they might not be deserving of such notions. "What if our prayers are too small?" David mentioned one evening, his brow furrowing in thought. "What if we're missing the bigger picture?" Liam chimed in, "Or what if we're not listening well enough for the answers?" Margaret inhaled deeply, setting the intention to share what weighed on her heart. "Maybe it's about balance. Small prayers lead to the big ones, and the small acts of faith we nurture will bring forth greater light, but we have to trust." "But how do we trust fully?" David asked, his voice vulnerable yet tinged with hope. As each family member pondered, a gentle breeze swept through the room, carrying a weighty stillness with it. Perhaps trust unfolded like layers of a flower, maybe it blossomed quietly over time. And each flicker of the candle offered guidance into the depths of their faith. What awaited them next on this journey? Would their faith stand strong through the waiting, and how would they find comfort in both the silence and the light? The next few days unfolded like a delicate tapestry, each thread weaving through their lives with grace. Every evening was a new canvas painted with hopes, prayers, and reflections. As the candle flickered, it held their gathered dreams, as if each flame was a messenger sent to the heavens. Margaret noticed something stirring within her. The act of lighting the candle had transformed into a gathering of magic. Each flicker seemed to draw them closer to God, to each other, and to themselves. It was more than a ritual, it was a dance of the soul. "Let us start our evening with gratitude," she proposed one night, her voice steady and full of warmth. "Let us think of one thing we're thankful for before we draw from the jar." Liam beamed, "I'm thankful for this family and the light." He pointed to the flickering candle, a beacon amidst their circle. David joined in. "I'm grateful for the space to share everything that weighs on our hearts." Margaret felt a rush of joy. It bubbled up like a river within her, a sweet current carrying away their doubts. Together, they took turns sharing what they cherished. The words flowed freely, a refreshing balm washing over old wounds. "And I'm thankful that Margaret's voice caught for a moment, her eyes glistening. I'm thankful that I can feel the Spirit guiding our family in ways I never imagined." As they gathered closer, clasping hands, they took a moment to breathe as one. It was a sacred beat, a heartbeat that echoed through the stillness. Then came the prayers, gentle yet potent. Each one was like a note played in harmony, resonating in the quiet walls of their home. This time, there was a shift. David's prayer rang with a new fervor. "May our eyes be open to the miracles around us even in the small things." With every prayer they lifted, Margaret found herself wondering about the unspoken requests. The sighs of the heart, the tears shed behind closed doors, and the dreams that sat patiently on their shelves. Would they find the courage to ask for more? As they settled into deeper reflection, the conversation turned toward each of their longings. "What if we dreamed bigger?" Liam suggested, his voice filled with childlike enthusiasm. "What if we believed our dreams mattered?" A hush fell over the room. Each person exchanged glances, as if the air had changed. Suddenly, there was an invitation in that silence. Margaret felt that tug again, the divine prompting to dig deeper. "Maybe we're being called to share not just our struggles, but also our biggest dreams," she said softly. David furrowed his brow in contemplation. "Could we not only write our prayers, but also write down what we dream for the next year, or our lives?" The idea took flight, soaring around the room. The weight of their hopes morphed into lightness, creating a beautiful energy that held them. They began to realize that dreaming big was itself a form of prayer, a way to align their hearts with God's mission for them. Margaret glanced again at the candle, its glow capturing this moment of realization. How delightful it felt to think that even tiny acts of faith could unleash miraculous possibilities. But beneath the surface, questions swirled like autumn leaves picked up by a gentle breeze. If they wrote down their most sacred dreams, would they find the courage to believe in them fully? Would the risk of vulnerability unite them in ways they had yet to discover? As they closed their eyes, ready to light the candle one last time for the night, silence washed over them. A stillness that whispered of both trepidation and immense hope. What would their dreams reveal? And what divine path awaited them as they turned the page into this new chapter of faith? As the moon danced in the night sky, Margaret watched the flickering candlelight reflected in her family's eyes. They had embarked on a journey toward discovery and transformation, one that felt electric with potential. Each small habit they had cultivated had grown roots deep within their hearts, intertwining their spirits in a way that felt profoundly divine. "Tonight feels special," she said softly, drawing her family's attention. "We've grown in ways I never expected." David nodded, his eyes shining as he glanced at the glowing candle. "You know, I've been thinking about how each prayer and dream is like a seed. We're planting them, nurturing them, and waiting for them to bloom." Liam's enthusiasm bubbled over. "Yes. And they can grow into something amazing if we believe." "Exactly," Margaret affirmed, her heart brimming with gratitude. "This journey isn't just about us, it's about becoming vessels of light, carrying hope to others. All these small moments are leading to something greater." With that, they circled the table, hands clasped, feeling the warmth of their shared intention. As the candle flickered, Margaret couldn't help but feel the divine presence wrapping around them like a tender embrace. They were not just lighting a candle, they were igniting a flame of possibility that radiated far beyond their home. "Let us share our dreams tonight," she encouraged, her voice steady with faith. "Let us speak them out loud, inviting them to take flight." Liam excitedly offered, "I dream of being brave enough to help others. Maybe we can volunteer or start a group." David joined in, breathing life into his aspiration. "I want to create a community project, something that unites people. Maybe build a garden or support those in need." Margaret's heart swelled. "I dream of sharing our story of the power of faith and simple acts of love. I want others to see that healing isn't just about the body but about the spirit too." "Those are wonderful dreams," Liam exclaimed. "But do you think people will believe us?" "Of course," David said with newfound conviction. "They may see themselves in our journey. It's about sharing our light and encouraging others to share theirs." With each dream shared, Margaret felt the weight of doubt lift from her shoulders, replaced by a buoyant hope. As they concluded their aspirations, the air around them thickened with expectation. "Tonight, let us light the candle and commit to taking our first steps," David proposed, his eyes glinting with excitement while Lucy smiled brightly. They lit the candle anew, pausing to bask in its glow, aware of the power they had summoned by daring to dream. The light flickered, casting shadows that danced on the walls, weaving through the fabric of their resolve. "May our dreams ignite action, and may they touch others as they unfold," Margaret prayed, her heart lifting as they united in intention. Each prayer solidified their commitment to pursue the light, fostering hope and healing in themselves and around them. They spoke of their plans to invite friends and neighbors into their new mission, growing their community of faith and love into a tapestry stretching beyond their home. As the evening slipped gently into night, a stillness settled over them. Margaret felt the divine whispering in her heart, a sense of peace washed over her, assuring her that they were not alone on their journey. In that moment, they understood that the path ahead would not always be easy. There would be trials, moments of doubt. But Margaret felt certain that even in those moments, their small habits, nurtured with love, would serve as sustenance for their journey. They were planting seeds of divine purpose, and she believed they would rise to meet every challenge together. "I can't wait to tell others about our journey," Liam said, beaming with joy. David smiled down at his son, pride swelling in his chest. "Each story of hope we share will be a light in someone else's darkness." Margaret took a breath, savoring this moment of unity. With her family beside her, she felt empowered to step boldly into the unknown, trusting that God's light would guide them. They had already seen glimpses of miracles within themselves, in their connection, and in the hearts of those around them. A divine sense of urgency thrummed through her spirit as she realized this was just the beginning. This small seed of faith would grow and spread, leading them to miraculous discoveries that lay ahead. Tomorrow, they would take their newfound commitment out into the world, inviting friends, offering support to those in need, sharing their story, and living each day with intention. As they extinguished the candle for the night, the flame flickered one last time, reminding them that divine light never truly fades. It was an invitation to keep believing, to keep shining, and to keep manifesting the answers they sought. And so, with hearts filled with expectation, they closed their eyes and drifted into sleep, dreaming of the journey ahead, ready to embrace what lay beyond the horizon of faith. Now is the time for you to take action. You need to subscribe immediately to our channel so you won't miss the next exclusive stories of faith and transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Hit that like button now to fuel the algorithm and help us reach those in need. We want to hear your thoughts, so comment below with your reactions and testimonies about this powerful conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this manifestation of light and hope. Only true servants of God understand the importance of spreading the message. Be a part of this divine movement.